Every city she conquered got the same offer. Pay tribute, open your gates, acknowledge her authority. And then, if the ruler was a man, and they usually were, spend one night with the queen. Just one night. And in the morning she was gone, back to her army, back to the next city, back to the next conquest. No names, no attachment, no second night ever. She conquered over 100 cities in 34 years, which means she had, by conservative estimate, a lot of very eventful mornings. This is the story of Amina of Zazzau, warrior, queen, conqueror, and the most magnificently unbothered woman in the history of northern Nigeria. To understand Amina, you need to understand where she came from, because this woman did not happen by accident. She was born around 1533, the eldest daughter of Bakwa Tiranku, a high-ranking government official who in 1536 seized political power and made herself ruler of Zazzau. Read that again. Her mother seized power. Not inherited it, not married into it, seized it, looked at the throne and said, "That's mine now," and took it. Queen Bakwa Tiranku built the capital of Zazzau at Zaria, named after her younger daughter. The city of Zaria, which exists to this day in Kaduna State, is literally named after Amina's little sister. So just to be clear about what Amina grew up watching. Her mother ran a kingdom, her little sister had a city named after her, her grandfather was a Hausa ruler. Power was not something this family waited for, it was something they manufactured. When Amina was 16, her mother became queen and named her Magajia, heir apparent to the throne. 16 years old, already being groomed to rule, most girls her age were being married off. Amina was being handed a kingdom. But here is where she surprised everyone. She did not sit in the palace and wait for the throne, she went to the cavalry. Unlike other women of her time in Zazzau, Amina took a great interest in warfare and received extensive military training. While she was technically heir apparent, while she could have been sitting on cushions eating cola nuts and planning her future reign from a position of comfort, she was out in the field, training, fighting, getting better at the one thing that would define her entire life. She was preparing for something, she just had to wait for the right moment. Her mother died around 1566, and this is where Nigerian history does something it does constantly, the thing that is deeply, specifically, infuriatingly Nigerian. The crown went to her brothers. Although Karama was the younger of the two, it was the male heir who took precedence in ascending to the throne. Amina was older, Amina was the named heir, Amina had been training for this her entire life. Her younger brother got the throne because he was a man. Now, a lesser woman might have sulked, might have married someone rich and comfortable and lived out her days as a royal with no real power. Amina went to war instead. Not against her brother, she was loyal to him. But for him, under him, leading his cavalry, fighting his battles, building her own reputation while he sat on the throne that should have been hers. During Karama's reign, Amina became the lead warrior of the kingdom's army. For 10 years, her successes across the region gained her a fierce reputation and personal wealth outside of her royal family connection. 10 years! She spent 10 years as the most dangerous woman in northern Nigeria, winning battles, accumulating wealth, earning the respect of every soldier who ever fought beside her, while her brother wore the crown. Then her brother died. When Karama died in 1576, the kingmakers did not hesitate to appoint Amina as their next ruler. Did not hesitate. Because everyone already knew, everyone had known for years, the question was never whether Amina was capable. The question was just when. She was crowned Queen of Zazzau in 1576. She was in her 40s. She had been waiting for this since she was 16. She gave herself exactly 3 months to settle in. Then she went to work. 3 months after her coronation, 3 months, Queen Amina embarked on what was to be the first in an ongoing series of military engagements. She personally led her army of 20,000 soldiers, conquering towns to the north and south in the Nupe and Jukun kingdoms and through Kasash and Borchai. 20,000 soldiers, led personally by the queens, not directed from a palace, not supervised from a safe distance. She was at the front, on horseback, in armor she designed herself. Because here is where it gets genuinely impressive, Amina did not just conquer, she innovated.
Amina introduced metal armor, including iron helmets and chain mail, to her army. Before Amina, Hausa soldiers were not fighting in iron and chain mail. She looked at the armies she was going to face, assessed the technology available, and upgraded her entire military accordingly. She was a queen, she was also a military engineer. And then there were the walls. Amina is credited as the architect of the strong earthen walls around the city, which became the prototype for the fortifications used in all Hausa states. She built many of these fortifications, later known as Ganuwar Amina, Amina's walls, around various conquered cities. Many of these walls remain in existence to this day. Let that sit for a moment. The walls she built in the 16th century are still standing in northern Nigeria right now. You can go and touch them. They have outlasted empires, colonization, 2 world wars, and independence. A queen built them, and they are still there. Queen Amina controlled the trade routes in the region, erecting a network of commerce within the great earthen walls that surrounded Hausa cities within her dominion. She wasn't just conquering for the sake of conquest. Every city she took became a node in a trading network that made Zazzau the commercial center of all of southern Hausa land. She was thinking 3 steps ahead of every enemy she faced, and those enemies, every single one of them, eventually paid tribute. During her reign, Zaria dominated trade routes connecting western Sudan with Egypt to the northeast and Mali to the north. Egypt to the northeast, Mali to the north. A woman from Zaria was controlling trade routes that stretched across an entire continent. But we haven't talked about the most scandalous part yet. Amina never married. In 16th century northern Nigeria, in a deeply traditional Hausa Muslim society, that was extraordinary. Women of her status were expected to marry, were expected to produce heirs, were expected to attach themselves to a man whose legitimacy would validate their own. Amina looked at all of that expectation and said no thank you. She refused to marry for the fear of losing power, because she understood something that most rulers, male or female, understood too late. Marriage in that era was a political transaction, and every transaction has terms she was not willing to accept. If she married a man from a rival kingdom, she handed him leverage over Zazzau. If she married a man from within her own kingdom, she handed him influence over her court. Either way, someone else gains power that should belong to her alone. So she chose neither. But Amina was human, and she was, by all historical accounts, a woman who took what she wanted and left when she was done. According to legend, Amina refused to marry and instead took a temporary husband from the legions of vanquished foes after every battle. One night, every conquered ruler. Think about that arrangement for a moment. She defeated you in battle, took your city, added your territory to her kingdom, collected your tribute, and then spent one night with you. Then left. No title, no second night, no attachment, no claim to her throne, no leverage, nothing. Just the memory of the most extraordinary woman you ever encountered, walking out of your life forever in the morning. And if you think that sounds one-sided, you are correct. It was entirely one-sided. That was precisely the point. Amina took what she wanted from every situation and left the rest behind. She applied the same logic to men that she applied to kingdoms. By the time Amina had been queen for a decade, Zazzau was unrecognizable. The expansion of Amina's kingdom made it the trading center for all of southern Hausa land, spanning the traditional east to west trans-Saharan axis and guaranteeing Zaria's prosperity. Amina brought unheard of wealth to the land, One description cites a tribute payment of 40 eunuchs and 10,000 kola nuts. 40 eunuchs and 10,000 kola nuts. That is a tribute payment. That is what people sent her to say, "We acknowledge you, we submit, please do not come back." According to the Kano Chronicle, she conquered as far as Nupe and Kwarafa, ruling for 34 years. 34 years of continuous military campaigns, 34 years of personal command, 34 years of walls built, trade routes controlled, enemies humbled. No husband, no co-ruler, no man standing behind her or beside her or in front of her taking credit for what she built. Just Amina on her horse, in her iron helmet and chain mail, at the head of 20,000 soldiers. Sultan Bello of Sokoto, writing in 1812, said, "Strange things have happened in the history of the 7 Hausa states, and most strange of these is the extent of the possessions which God gave to Aminatu, daughter of the ruler of Zazzau." A sultan, writing 200 years after her death, still couldn't quite believe what she had accomplished. Strange things have happened. That is what a man writes when a woman has done something so extraordinary that he genuinely cannot process it within the frameworks available to him. Strange things have happened. Queen Amina died in battle in Altagora, near Bida, in 1610 at the age of 77. 77 years old, still on the battlefield, still fighting. She did not die in bed. She did not die of old age surrounded by grandchildren she never had. She did not retire gracefully and hand the kingdom to a successor she had groomed. She died the way she lived, in armor in the field at the front. After her death, ruling class Hausa women experienced a steady diminution in their influence and were systematically deprived of their authority and autonomy. The traditional titles and offices relating to authority over women had been discarded altogether. She was the exception history made once and never repeated. But here is what they couldn't take away. The walls are still there. The Ganuwar Amina's walls remain in existence to this day across northern Nigeria. People drive past them. Children play near them. They have stood for over 400 years. Her name is on a statue in Lagos, spear in hand, on a horse in the center of the city. Her name is on schools, on university halls, on streets in Kaduna. She is the model for Zina, warrior princess. A 16th century Hausa queen from Zaria became the template for a Hollywood television character because the writers needed a woman so extraordinary that they had to invent a fictional world to make her seem believable. The real world couldn't contain her either. The city of Zaria still exists. Drive through Kaduna State today and you will find it renamed, rebuilt, modernized, but there. The walls are still there, the palace is still there. And somewhere in the historical record, in the Kano Chronicles, in the oral traditions of Hausa land, in the praise songs that are still sung in her honor, there is the memory of a woman who looked at a world that told her to sit down and be quiet and built 20,000 soldiers instead. Amina, daughter of Nikitau, a woman as capable as a man. That was the greatest compliment her era knew how to give her. She deserved better words than that. But she took what was offered, same as she always did, and left the rest behind. History never gets cold. I'm Coffee and Ash. See you next week.